do not rush the process. The burnout normally is bigger than the enjoyment. Sports is very, very hard process. Obviously playing for fun, playing for entertainment, it's a great deal. But when you take that serious to the next level, being at the college level, at the professional level, when you create routine, that's not that easy. So athletes, coaches, parents, strength and conditioning coaches, do not rush the process. That's the subject of today's podcast. I'm Cassiano Costa. I'm here at Costa Performance in Boca Raton, Florida. This is CPX Podcast. Do not rush the process. Well, I think that was a solid introduction for today. Unfortunately, after 22 years of working with performance, especially on the sport of tennis, I've seen the pressure that sometimes the team, the family place on the athlete can be actually quite hard on it. And that's not necessarily gonna make the process be better, faster, or more efficient. Actually, it plays the other way and putting like a lot of frustration, put a lot of anxiety, put a lot of some sort of depression, not to say, on the athlete. So when we are part of a supportive team, and that's the main thing here, when we work with athletes, no matter in which role you're portraying, it can be your son, it can be your friend, it can be your client, it can be whatever it is. It's very important that support means that you provide the tools to make that athlete succeed in whatever sport he or she is doing. When we start making that process our process, then emotion is involved, then some decisions are not made in the best way possible. Some decisions will be made in a way to protect the team, not necessarily the athlete in question. I did some research back in the days. We had a massive rate of burnout, especially in individual sports. If you allow me, I'm gonna take here more on the tennis side just because we provide service and I provide service for a long period of time on the transition of the athletes. So it's really a high number of athletes that quit the sport before the age of 18, or when they realize that they were not living their dream, they were living someone else's dream. Sometimes it's even too late. They miss opportunities in school, they miss opportunities professionally. So it's very important to be realistic. But getting back on the point of the talk, obviously, it's very important that we let the process be more organic, more natural. We will not make champions in 1 week. We will not make champions in 1 year. That's a long-term process. So if you are involved in someone's sports career, make sure that you provide that patience, you provide that chance for the athlete. I've seen, parents and coaches, of course. And by the way, let me tell you, I have a 17 and a 10-year-old. So I also, on the role of father, I'm also on the role of living a bit the dream of my kids on their processes. I do believe I have information because I work with that, but obviously there is emotion involved. So I also suffer sometimes with a bit of anxiety, a bit of panic on when things gonna happen, when things gonna click. But it's good that I'm being able to control myself. I give you a quick example here. Most of you know my younger son Kai, 10 years old. He's been playing ice hockey, soccer, and flag football, among other sports. And mainly in hockey and soccer, I always play around, say he didn't come with my genetics, but obviously that's a joke. But I was a bit impatient to see, man, this kid was so coordinated when he was younger, and then he lose kind of his capacity to run. He gained some weight, and he developed so much in terms of height and become a little uncoordinated. And his mom and I, we talked a lot. She also on the field, we talked a lot, and calmly we saw a beautiful process of now. I think he accommodated to his height. He accommodated to the new length that he has on the arms, on lower limbs. And It's cool to see that, I'm not saying that he transformed himself on a super skillful player, but he started using all what he's been training recently and applying it. And it's nice because the kid, has a lot of fun. Me as a parent, I get happy to see his happiness. And at the end of the day, especially in young population, happiness is what you're looking for. Without happiness, without enjoyment, that becomes like a very heavy routine. And the chance of the kid at some point burn out or lose interest or get, as I said, depressive regarding the process and not being able to, perform and or enjoy that path is big. With that, it's complicated to, motivate an athlete like that in that situation when he or she loses the interest for what he's doing. So when we say, how can we rush the process, right? I think that's the question that we are thinking here. So one very important part is the development, especially at a young age, happens on a specific speed, okay? And that speed is individual. If your neighbor is 12 and your son is 12 and your neighbor is, developing a little quicker, that doesn't mean your son is worse, your son is not doing something that he's supposed to be doing. That just, the speed of development of that kid is different than the speed of development of your son or your athlete. Especially when the kids are going through their growth peak, the maturation stages, it's very complicated. I always do the analogy of it looks like a new cell phone, okay? So imagine your kid is a certain height, a certain weight, whatever, and then in 6 months he changes, big like a growth spur, changes the weight, changes a lot of things. It's like I just gave you a new phone, everything is updated, but you don't know how to use any of the applications. So you got lost. You pretty much have a powerful device and you don't know how to use it. You have a Ferrari that you don't know how to drive. So we gotta be patient. It's not the fault of a strength and conditioning. It's not the fault of the physio. It's not the fault of the coach. It's not the fault of anyone. It's just a part of the process. Now, if we get desperate in that process, if we get in panic with that process, then maybe we're gonna lose important parts of the consistency that we were using on that athlete. And we're gonna look for new options, and those new options gonna get an athlete that they don't recognize yet, they don't understand yet what is going through the body of the athlete. Gonna, just challenge the athlete and perhaps gonna more make a misuse of the athlete's body than really a evolution or a development. Coordination is one of the points that you gotta be extremely patient for the athletes in development on the little 10, 12 teenager years, because they're gonna gain and lose. And sometimes I see my colleagues on the technical piece, this kid doesn't understand that, he kind of like had setbacks, or this kid cannot do this. Yeah, I mean, it takes time and it's a different rate. There's a difference between skill, effort, achievement. So the first part is the kid has the effort, that's a good start, right? The kid has the attitude, the proper energy to develop, that's a great thing. The achievements, you can put the whole effort in one situation and achieve. I keep saying to my friends, I try golf several times and think I'm not made for that. In the other hand, try snowboard and boom, happens like if I was born to do that. So it's just certain things, not just the matter of effort, that's the matter of what your body is prepared or what your brain can connect to the body to do it. Then, the skill is, some people just come more skilled in certain things than others. And that's not a problem. And even on the physical capacity, some people are faster, some people are more agile, some people are stronger. Now, that doesn't mean that your athlete cannot develop. It's just he's more prone to be, in a certain way than the others. We could make this conversation really long and get into the genetic science that is, being more and more fully developed. There are certain manipulations that the body just will not accommodate, or if they will, it will in a ratio very slow. Give an example, you do not transform a marathon runner into a sprinter. Some people are just prone to do the long run situation. Some people are more explosive, that rely on the type of fibers, on the enzymatic constitution of the body. You don't change. I joke. You don't change you don't make a lizard an alligator. It's that simple. Now, trying to get organized the thoughts here. So I've seen a lot of people that come here. Kids are between 9 and 12 years old, and they put like a beautiful professional routine on the kid, and they expect that just because the kid are doing things, you're gonna have the development or results that the parents normally expecting, or sometimes the coaches are expecting, and that's not realistic. The kid needs peace, or the athlete needs peace. The athlete needs a comfortable environment. Now, let's be calm here on the comfort, because I'm a guy that I don't like comfort. I think comfort is a slow death. I think comfort put you a little under or outside of perspective. But in order to young athletes develop, they need a comfortable environment. If they are on the war environment the whole time, they will not succeed. They don't have the tools for it. Simple. Especially, I think the quote is something like tough times make tough people, and then easy times make easy people. There is always a sequence where, sometimes the parents, they didn't have the same lifestyle that the kid have, and the parents are like tough people, competitors and successful people, and the kids don't follow necessarily the same path, just because we were able to provide much more for the kid. So he didn't have that initial hunger, that initial urgency that we had, and he will not develop in the same way. He doesn't learn in the same way. He doesn't process in the same way, and we got to respect that. So every time when I see those athletes that they bounce facility to facility, either on the sport, either on the strength and conditioning, either on the physio, I say, I don't think the problem is whoever you were visiting. I think the problem is you not accepting the process. So for me, some things that we're gonna say here can look silly, could be my grandma here saying, consistency is for me what makes the process more suitable to be successful. And consistency involves sometimes the break of a comfort. But by comfort, not the environment, but by comfort, like athletes tired, come and train. Don't ask the parent, or you as a parent, don't just call and say, my poor kid, he's so tired, he shouldn't train. No, come and train. Come and communicate. Let the athlete communicate to the coaches. Let the specialists handle a little situation. Yes, you are the one who knows better your kid, probably. But I say to develop important skills that are resilience, that are being reliable, that are decision making, that are taking care of consequences, which are all fundamental on the process of sports, and why not to say the process of life. Kids need to, explore that independence a little bit. That I like, it's funny that I'm using the Dallas Maverick hat, because my younger son, we put the middle name Maverick, because he's like an independent mind type of individual. I really appreciate people like that. I see most of the athletes that are successful, they have somehow that capacity developed. We as parents, we sometimes try to spoil the kids, we try to protect the kids, but a little bit of stress, a little bit of suffering is actually positive. I think it was Aristotle who said, people develop under suffering and knowledge. So I always try to provide both for the athletes. It's important. Okay. One thing that is tough, and I don't want to criticize anyone or anything here, even because I'm gonna use or mention something that was developed with a very good intention. But things like the UTR, I think, puts so much stress on the kids, and more, the parents are taking that same stress, and somehow the coaches, the development is long term. I followed closely from 2008 to 2017 the progression of the ITF ranking. There was no UTR at the time, And that was kind of the ranking that was a little important, or the USTA ranking, and see that the top 100 players, several of them on the junior ages, several of them did not do college and or professional career through tennis. Okay, and the ones that made it, they were, some of them even like had to suffer a little bit before making the success. So what I'm saying is, like, do not guarantee that if you're a good junior, if you have a good UTR as a junior or whatever it is, you're gonna succeed. The UTR thing, as any other ranking, can be a combination of things. Give you an example of the ITF. Back in the days, we would take like athletes from South America and put them to compete in countries that I probably don't even know the name anymore, just because there's not much competitors there, so they could accumulate points. With that, we could create business plans and say, look, this athlete here has this ranking, has this number of points, so they have some type of financial support to then engage in their career. The problem is, then when they reach at a certain ranking that they could really play against real good players, they were not there, because they based their points on situations that were kind of more favorable. That was not really like a proper development. We're competing to build a ranking. We're not like developing the player. You should see, even Yannick Sinner, when he came 15 years old, like hot and beating everyone, hot not physically, but hot like as in, you know, he was performing super well. He didn't make the transition that fast. He came, won a few games, maybe won a tournament or so, and then not much more going there. Some injuries, some issues, had to rebuild, had to regroup. Boom! Now develop himself, solid on the tour now as one of the probably future stars of already a star, but probably one of the future legends. So the process is long. Doesn't matter like what you're achieving each year of your career. Tennis is a tough sport because, you know, kind of what you did on the last year matters a lot on the current year, because you defend. You defend the points. It's not, oh, I have a bad week. Oh, that bad week can cost you, you know, a very important placement on the ranking. Give you an example. If a professional on a Grand Slam, he reaches a quarterfinal or semifinal of a Grand Slam, he probably moves up on the ranking a lot, especially on the women's side, and position her or him on a ranking that you know, provides some good stuff. Problem is, he takes advantage of that for 1 year. Then let's say the next year he has a couple of bad weeks in tournaments that were key for him and lose points and drops very close to be outside of the top 100, and that changes absolutely the routine of tournaments he or she gonna play. You know, sometimes the sponsorship, bonification, so it's complicated. That's why I say, don't freak out with like, oh man, my kid is this UTR, or you know, I know colleges take a look on that for recruiting, but for me, more important than only build a number or only build, you know, a competitive schedule, is important to build the athlete in more like overall capacities. You know, I know sports is tough because we ended up a lot of times trying to measure us on results, but that's not fair. So that's not fair with the tennis coach, that's not fair with the strength and conditioning coach, you know, because as I said, the process doesn't happen one day to the other. I think if I could suggest something, would be find someone that you see that first is passionate about what he or she does. Find someone that shows that cares about your kid or your athlete. Give that person time. See if there is chemistry between the kid and the coach or the professional. Because sometimes, you know, one person can be extremely good for a certain player. Oh, that guy is good because he built that player. Well, maybe that player would fit, you know, properly on the coach's methodology. Not necessarily that coach is good. That coach was good for one player. That doesn't mean he's good for every single player. And I can be shooting myself on the foot here, because a lot of people came and looked for me because I work with player A, B, or C. And what I try to do every day is, no, I'm not good because of the player. I'm good because I'm good, because I'm trying to do the best for that athlete. Now, once again, I'm always patient on see, hey, okay, your kid will take 2 years to develop. And the parents look at me, what, 2 years? You're trying to sell me a 2-year program? No, I'm trying to show you the reality. I'm trying to show you, like, if someone comes and say, hey, I got your kid better in 3 months, that's a big lie. Oh, maybe, okay, for a little bit you'll be better, because every new stimuli on the body, provokes a lot of reaction. Sometimes just the change on training methodology is more than sufficient for, quick development, but then not necessarily is a sustainable development. So for me, consistency, trust, chemistry, those are points that are very important on the process. Those are points that are, gonna really make it that the athlete enjoy that journey, that the athlete enjoy that path. So we avoid burnout, we avoid, lack of interest for the sport. We avoid like that the person that is unhappy. The worst thing is if you have to do something unhappy. Yeah, sometimes there are days that you have to. You lose a match, you have to train the next day, you're not happy. Well, part of the game. But when you don't have like that will to do continuously, something is wrong on the process. And most of the times is the rush that either the athlete himself, that happens more on the professional level, is putting on him or herself. Now, just sharing some interesting fact here, because every day, or almost every day, I got a new client, I got a new family that comes here, and I'm so grateful for all families we have here. We have a tremendous environment. We have like a family environment here. But especially who is new on the sport, they come and, okay, what the kid wants to be. Kid wants to be professional. That's all right. What's the definition of professional? That's a tough answer, right? Is the guy who has 1 point? Is the guy who is 200? Is the top 5? Who is professional? So I'll put my 2 cents here. Professional for me is the person who is capable to build his or her life throughout the craft or the skill he has. On the case of sport, he's capable to, either through his prize money, sponsorship, whatever it is, develop him or herself, pay his bills, maybe save some money, maybe, but he doesn't need to think of a secondary action or job or situation, okay? Now, I'm giving a better example here in tennis. I know other sports like squash, some players, they do need to do some exhibitions, some classes, because the money involved on the sport doesn't match necessarily what the sport costs. They are professionals because somehow they are building their lives through their sport. Now, if you ask me, so you're saying that a 500 ATP or WTA player is not a professional? I say he's a professional under development. If he's 5, 6, 7 years on that grind, he's surviving, but not necessarily, if he's able to pay his bills playing that ranking, wow, beautiful, professional. But I can tell on experience that is not that easy. Normally he relies on external help, and it's complicated. So reason I'm saying that, I'm gonna put on tennis, even to do a closure soon, which is the following. If your kid decides to play tennis, and if you have the dream to provide the best to him in terms of chances to become a college athlete or a professional athlete, excuse me, there is a massive investment involved, okay? If you want a good coaches, if you want a good program, if you want a good strength and conditioning coach, the equipment, the gear, the traveling, because to really compete and develop, you gotta travel, you gotta play outside home. So that easily is a lot of money that can get, over the 50K, 60K year. If you have that investment, well, why not to invest in your kid, right? If the player is considered a professional, let's put it this way, for me, it's the guy who can cover at least 100,000 per year, okay? You say 100,000 of cost? Well, I'm not putting his house, I'm assuming he's living with the parents, he has no car, he's training for free, but those players normally, in order to build a proper ranking, which guarantee that they are playing, the bigger tournaments, they are getting the prize money that can sustain them. Those players gonna play anywhere between 26, 28, sometimes 30 weeks, okay? 95% of these tournaments are outside of their own hometown. So that involves traveling, that involves accommodation, that involves meals, that involves, if he wants better chance to have a team with him. So we're no joking, saying anywhere from 100,000 to 300,000, depending on the level of the player and the level of investment he can do for the career. Then on top of that, he needs to make money to, pay the bills. So that's what I'm saying. It's not an easy sport. There is no easy sport. Every time our athletes here, they ask, hey, what's the hardest sport in the world? I say, man, any. Each sport has their own characteristics, their own hard things, their own benefits, as everything in life. To bring back to the original topic of the conversation, there is no guarantee that your student athlete will become successful on his or her journey. As a parent and a coach, my recommendation is yes, provide everything you can that you believe will facilitate that process for your kid, for your athlete. But do not rush the process. Don't put unnecessary pressure on the professionals that are working with your athlete. Don't try to do their jobs. You can be great at your field, you can be great at another sport, but each sport has its own characteristics. I'm learning a lot on the hockey world now that I'm following my son through it. My older son plays volleyball. I'm learning a lot about volleyball, great community. So be patient, okay? If your neighbor son is number one of 12 years old, well, good for him. That doesn't guarantee he's number one at 14, 16, 18 and professional. So take it easy. Make sure we provide happiness for the kids. Don't hurt your relationship with your kids because of a sport. More importantly, make sure your kid is happy. I've seen more and more kids that come here and I feel like they're not living their dream. They're living someone else's dream. And as a kid that I was able to live my dream, I recommend be on the side of your athlete or your kid. Be on the side of the professionals. Let the professionals do the work and be patient. It's not easy. There's a lot of emotion involved, believe me. I'm learning more and more. Now that my kids are competing more and more, I learn more and more how hard it is, especially myself. I played soccer and I see my son playing soccer and I want to say things and I say, you know what? He has to learn through the mistakes. That's the way I did. He has professionals around him. Let them do the work. We provide a nice program here for the long-term athletic development. We have connection with great coaches in the different sports. If you want to know more about us, please make sure you access our Instagram at Costa Performance, YouTube. Take a look on our website, costaperformance.com. This is our episode. Do not rush the process. I hope to see you very soon.